I'm not crying. You're crying.
I'm not crying. You're crying. You're such a baby.
How are you guys?
Hey, guys.
Hello. It's Derrick and Bree here. We're the Millers.
Nice to meet you.
I don't really know how to start into this, how you lead into it, but just
an update.
Just an update? I don't know if it's an update. It's not really an update.
Review.
Okay, so yeah, I would say more of a review, not an update, a review. So we've been thinking a lot the last couple days about last year at this time when Jensen had his big Chick-fil-A incident, and we just kind of, it's been a year. There's been, that was such a emotional time. It was hard to even talk about, even as we were going through it. It was some of the things were hard to talk about because obviously that was a day that I thought I was watching our son die. But then it was also you didn't want to share too much because it was just a really personal moment, but then also didn't want to seem like you were dramatizing it for we were dramatizing it for YouTube, which is obviously not the case. But now that time has passed, I feel like we do want to talk about it a little bit more out of gratitude, because I feel like that day really was a reset. It was his life day, his second life day.
It was a big awakening.
And it was also a day for us to really be okay, literally your life can change in 2 seconds. And it was kind of a second chance for everybody to reprioritize. And even though we had been through that with him already, because we had his original surgery and the unexpected news of his defects, it was never
not to that extent.
I never thought we were going to lose him.
Yeah, there was never that moment that you wondered if it was going to be over.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we'll give you a recap. And I don't even want to say a quick recap because it's kind of hard to condense the story. Last year at this time, Jensen was just 3 months old, and Derrick was about to go out of town to go to Vid Summit, which is a YouTube convention. Not a convention, but it's it's classes, right?
It's a business thing, yeah.
And Jay had been a little bit sick, actually. He had been sick. He had a little bit of cough, and Derrick was hesitant to leave, but I was just it's fine.
We even told the surgeon, we even told Dr. Russell that we were afraid for either one of us to go anywhere in case something happened.
Oh, yeah, because we also need to backtrack a little bit further. He was stopping breathing very regularly.
Every day.
At this point.
Multiple times a day. By stopping breathing, it's not like he stopped, purposefully stopped breathing. His trachea would collapse and he couldn't breathe.
Mm-hmm. Well, because I remember even explaining this to people, because we called it blue spells is what we called these incidents. And people would be like, yeah, my baby would have that when they'd cry too. And I was just I don't know if we're talking about the same thing.
It's mechanical. He could not breathe.
Yeah.
He would try. You could see it in his face and his eyes, but he couldn't breathe.
Mm-hmm. So we had been having this happen. And so we knew what it was. We had been in actually pretty serious incidences with it before, giving him rescue breaths. Really, we had been in some pretty scary situations with it before. And so leading up to this day, we were anxious. Derrick didn't want to go. I was I'm not really, he's definitely the caretaker and the protector, and I'm way more the one that's it'll be fine, in a relationship. And so he was sort of I don't want to go, and I was doing that, he'll be fine, nothing's going to happen while you're gone. So he left and went. And the first night that he left, Jensen had he had a fever that night, but I didn't really think anything of it. And then the next day I had some errands to run, and I got a babysitter for the little girls, and Bodie and Brielle were at school, and I had to take Jay to the doctor and do some things. So anyways, we went to an appointment, and then I had a little bit of a break and needed to do some returns. And so I was driving past Chick-fil-A. I got a text from my friends. They're like, hey, we're at Chick-fil-A. If anybody wants to join us. It was a group text. And I was just right there. So I just hurried and turned in, literally 1 second decision, turn into Chick-fil-A.
The whole timing of that turn into Chick-fil-A in and of itself was a huge blessing in disguise. So
yes. Yeah.
We'll see why.
For sure. So he kind of started fussing. I got him out. and was nursing him, and he just was getting really upset when he was nursing. He couldn't eat because he had a stuffy nose, and so he was getting really irritated, and he started crying, and I could tell in that moment that he was going to have one of his blue spells. And so I stood up and went into like the bathroom, like this little nook area, and I was trying to calm him down, and he wouldn't calm down, and then his trachea collapsed. And
part of him not calming down is because when he's so normally when babies can breathe through their nose, they can breathe through the nose and nurse through their mouth and swallow, and everything is coordinated like the way that it's supposed to be. But with him, it's not that he was just fussy and he was just crying, it's that he feels pain because as he's trying to nurse, he also aspirates. He also like breathes in the milk because his coordination of breathing and nursing at the same time isn't as good as it should be with most babies. So like imagine trying to drink a glass of water and kind of breathing that in. It hurts your chest. And so that made him cry and made him a lot more fussy than he otherwise would be.
So then after that, my friend, like I was getting really upset, and my friend that was at lunch with me. So ironically, I was meeting up with two friends there, and both of these two friends were really good friends. They're really good friends of mine, and they knew Jensen's whole story. And then also another one of my other really close friends just happened to be there meeting for lunch with another lady from our church. So I had like 3 really good supports there that knew Jensen's like whole situation, which also was a really big blessing. So when I noticed that he was having his blue spell, was starting to get upset. My friend came into the area where I was to try to help me because she could see that something was wrong. So I tried to give him a rescue breath at that point, and then my friend tried to give him a rescue breath, and nothing happened at all. Like it was just like, and I could tell it was just very serious. So we had been having this happen very regularly, and we'd seen what it looks like when it was like a kind of bad one. We'd seen like all these different levels of like, okay, that was a bad one, or that one was okay, we got through that one. And then this one, immediately I was like, okay, I've never seen one, like we've never dealt with one this bad before. And so at that point, after her and I had both done the rescue breaths, and I realized like this was really serious, I like just basically lost it, because I was like, he's gonna die. That's all I was thinking was what's gonna happen. So I ran out with him, and I just remember yelling, does anybody know CPR? And my other good friend who was there came up to me, and she took, all I remember was her taking off her jacket and throwing it on the floor, and then another person asking me if he was choking, and I was like, no, he's not choking, and I said, no, he has a problem. But then I was also screaming, and my friend took him and she laid him on the ground on his jacket, and another lady came over, and there was just so many little miracles in that day that I had the support crew there to help me. And then this other mom came over who had a baby in the NICU. And when you have a baby in the NICU, before you can leave, you have to practice infant CPR. And she started trying to work on him like right away. And then another woman who was
Which
there,
we're so thankful for,
yes,
because there are so many times when you wonder if you should act on something. Yep. And a lot of times people just stand back and think somebody else will. We're so thankful to just take initiative and act.
And she wasn't an expert by any means. She was just a mom who had just taken this course. But she didn't. I think that's sometimes what stops people from helping, is because they're like, oh, I'm not an expert, you know.
I have to be.
But she just jumped right in. And then another woman that was there came in and got me and kind of took me away, because I was obviously really upset. And she just held me back in the corner and was really like a good support to me, just the things that she was saying to me. And I come to find out later, she had also lost a child, not in the same way, but she understood the darkness that was like consuming me. And it was literally like I was having an out-of-body experience, because to this day I have like almost 2 different memories. I have the memory of, I remember like screaming, and I remember scratching at the walls, like because I was trying to get away from her. I remember like fighting her, but also I remember what she was saying to me. So it's like I could think, but then I was in my mind, I was like thinking all these different things, but then my body was just almost, I don't know how to say it. It was just a reflex, like what my body was doing. I had no control over that. It was literally like my soul was just being destroyed. That's like what I was doing. And it was so awful. Oh. But then also another tender mercy that we had at that time is there was a mom there, and she wasn't actually in Chick-fil-A at the moment. She had ran out to the car to get a binky for her daughter, and she was an ER nurse in the surgical unit at the hospital. And so her friend who was holding her baby ran out to her and just yelled and said, like, come in here right now. There's a baby that needs CPR. And she ran in, and another like really miracle of that day was that, so with the hospital, you used to have to only get CPR certified every year. But then just prior to this, they changed it so you had to get it done every quarter. And when you update your CPR, you have to are randomly given either a child or an adult that you have to show that your CPR skills on. And you have to take a computer test that is also random, and you either get a community setting or a hospital setting. So this nurse, she got a community setting, a child in a community setting, and she had just done that refresher. And what that means is she took a test that was like, okay, if you're in the community and someone needs help, what do you do? And so it walks her through this whole situation of like assessing it and what to do. And then you have to go to the skills lab and practice on a dummy, and the dummy tells you like, are you breathing hard enough? Are you breathing too hard? Like just kind of walks, really is very particular about the CPR that you're giving them.
Right.
Yeah. And so just the week before, she had practiced CPR on a child in the community setting. She had refreshed all these skills. So when her friend yelled to her, the second she was running into Chick-fil-A, her skills were sharp, and she was assessing the situation. And she said the second she walked in the door, that she locked her eyes on Jensen. She said it wasn't like I was scanning the room. She's like, I saw him immediately, and I already knew what to do. Which I think all those things were saving us time, because he in total was not breathing for about 4 minutes. And you start to have permanent brain damage between 4 and 6 minutes without having oxygen. So literally when we say like every second counts or counted, like that was the truth. That was the case. And because she was so prepared, she didn't waste any time. And so she ran over and she started working with that other NICU mom and the other people that were there. And she worked hard. She ripped his clothes off and tried to get a pulse, and he had no pulse. And she worked on him until she got him back. And it was actually before the paramedics arrived. And one of my other friends was able to call 911. And it was just every single person that was there supporting me, that was there working on Jensen, had a very important role. And I think that all of those things played out for us to be able to have a best case scenario with him. Obviously an awful experience, but looking back, it was like there were so many things that could have gone one way or the other. Like if I had just continued on my way with my errands and I had been in a different setting when something happened, I wouldn't have had that support. And I don't even like to think about the what ifs or how things could have been or whatever. Or what if I had been home alone and had to, with the little girls trying to get help. Like it's just the fact that it happened there was such a blessing. And so the reason why it ended up being so severe, we found out later on, is because he actually had RSV. So when his trachea collapsed, it glued shut pretty much. And that's why it was so severe. And we had no idea. I mean, we had no idea. So the other side of the story is, so I'm having all these like little miracles on my side, but then Derrick has his side too.
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of my anguish, if you will, comes from some of the guilt of feeling like I wasn't there. And, you know, naturally as the parent, you feel like we do this together. We're a team, and I wanted to be there. So I was at, like Bree said, I was at Vid Summit in California, and I got the phone call from my friend, and well, what was interesting is I was talking with a couple other friends that I really wanted to talk to. It was actually a really important conversation, and I get this phone call, and I look at my phone, and I'm thinking, okay, that's weird. Why is she calling me? And I just immediately
it wasn't me. It was
no,
a friend.
It wasn't Bree. It
Me.
was her friend's. It was a friend calling me from her phone. I thought it's not normal. So I just excused myself and walked away and took the call. And she was so imagine being away from your family, hundreds of miles, and you're completely helpless. There's nothing you can do. And as I didn't even understand what she was saying. She was crying. She was, you know, not hysterical in a bad way, but she was even feeling the emotions of the situation. So she was crying. She was trying to tell me what was happening. And finally I somewhat understood and walked away. And Jace Bennett knew something was wrong, and he knew our situation, and he kind of followed me apparently, and I was kind of on the phone. Everything happens so fast. You like Bree said, it's so fast, but it's so slow. Mm-hmm. Two different memories, two different, I don't know. I just remember I was staring at my phone after I hung up, trying to figure out what I was going to do, and trying to figure out how I was going to get home as fast as I possibly could, because there was still another day of this convention at Vid Summit. And basically Jace just came up to me and just took over. He just saw that I think at that point I was...
You think you were in shock?
I was in shock. I just didn't know what to do. I was staring at my phone, but all of these emotions, these thoughts, like there's so many different things, thousands of things going through your head that you're trying to process. And
like,
he just took over.
Did you know he was okay? Did you know? What did you think was going on?
I had no idea what was going on. I just knew. All she told me is that they were doing CPR. The ambulance is coming. That's basically all that I knew, and I needed to get home as fast as possible. So, and your mind automatically goes to it automatically sees the worst. For a couple hours, that's all I could see, because I didn't know. I was on a plane. I mean, somehow he got me. So he just booked a flight. He didn't even reschedule my flight. I don't even know what happened with my flight home. He just booked me a flight, and I got home. But even that process in and of itself, like technically I missed that flight, but then it was delayed, and so he called me. He said, just run, just go. You'll get on it. Just go. And it all happened so fast. I was trying to get my luggage. I actually didn't even freaking care about my luggage. I was just trying to get on that plane through security and everything. And thank goodness that flight was delayed.
That was just another
tender
miracle
mercy
that we had that day.
The crazy thing is that I got to the hospital like 5 minutes before they did. Mm-hmm. I barely beat them to the hospital from California in Salt Lake City. I beat Bree and Jensen to that hospital. So,
which shows to you, so we live like an hour and a half from the hospital. We live like an hour and a half north, and he was in California. And so when the ambulance came and picked us up, we had to go to the hospital here in Logan. We didn't go straight to the hospital in Salt Lake. We had to go to the hospital here in Logan and like get checked out. Now this is like another part of the story. You guys are probably like, okay, this is much more than we bargained for. But when I got to the hospital, the doctor who was over the ER here was asking me a lot of questions, and he didn't really understand Jensen's condition. And, you know, rightfully so. It's 1 in 6,000. So he doesn't really understand like what this means and how to treat it and what's going on. Because at this point, he's acting fairly normal
at that point.
He's acting like he's coming back to himself, and I just did not feel good about it, and I didn't know how. I also was feeling like I can't go home again, because the chance of this happening, like now that I've seen this happen, I felt like everything worked out so perfectly to keep him here. I felt like I couldn't risk that again. Like, it's like you can't push your luck, right? I don't want to be at home and have this. How many times do I feel like I'm just going to get lucky and have everybody in the right situation at the right time and have everything work out? So when I got to the hospital, I called our surgeon and I said... Because for
months we've been discussing with his surgeon.
Another surgery option.
Option that could help
with these spells.
Yeah, help him breathe better.
So
open up his trachea.
Yeah. We had been thinking about this surgery, kind of like not knowing if we should do it or not. And then I called her that day. I called her cell phone, and because she's so great and she's been so kind, and we've had really close contact with her. And I called her cell phone. She answered right away, which also, like, she's a busy lady. She's in surgery all the time.
She's saving lives every day, all day.
Yes. But that moment when I called her, she answered immediately, and she could tell I was just like, I just told her, like, oh my gosh, he stopped breathing. We had to do CPR for 4 minutes. Like, it was awful. And I'm like, I'm here at the hospital, and I can't go home. I'm like, I need to be down. We have to do something now. I'm not taking him home again until we know he can be safe. And she was just like, okay, I'll put in a transfer. Like, they'll bring you to primaries right now. And that was it. Like, so then they loaded us up on the ambulance, and they took us down to primaries. And by the time we got there, Derrick was there. So when he's talking about, like,
minutes,
Jace took his phone, booked him a flight. It had to have been less than 30 minutes in the time that he got that and got on that plane.
It was crazy.
And then he got there. Like, the timing was just so perfect and such a gift for us to be there and to have each other. And come to find out, our surgeon actually was not even working. She had the weekend off, which for her, another thing that we found out later is just that, like, she works all the time, and when she has a weekend off, she basically, like, unplugs. But she came in and worked that week. She did that surgery on him. No questions asked. She wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna pass this off to another doctor. I'm not working this weekend. She was invested. She didn't even. I didn't even know that. I found that out later from another person. But it was just like she was all in, and that was another. I mean, we needed that. We needed her confidence and her relationship and her to help us get through that. But I mean, there's, like I said, there's just so many things, and that's like all the heartache of it, like we're talking, but there's all those little things in there that was just like, okay, like, he's meant to be here, everything worked out, and he's just continued to be that way. He's been that way since day one, like, he beats the odds. He's just a special little boy, and he has a gift and a lot to offer this world, and he's been able to show us a lot of how even in literally your darkest times, your biggest heartache, like, there is goodness to be found. And I feel like that's the biggest lesson that we've learned from it. And it was so funny because even on, like, the anniversary of all of this happening, I was having a really rough day thinking about everything, because it's just, I really think that, like, post-traumatic stress is, like, a real thing, and I think that we both we are both experiencing that in different ways. But even on that day, the day that I was just like, oh, this is just heavy, like, remembering the things from that day, that's heavy. Our sweet little nephew sends us a picture of all of these Pop-Tops that he's collected to donate to Primary Children's Hospital. And when I say he's collected, like, a few, it's like...
What's a Pop-Top?
The top of the cans. I mean, literally.
So that thing that
pops off the top?
Pops the top, yeah, of a soda.
Yeah, he collected all of these for us. And it was like, even that day when I'm, like, thinking about these things, having, like, a sad moment, we get this little gift of like light given to us to be like, you know what, look at the good that has come out of this. And, you know, and he donated all of those to the Ronald McDonald House. And just the fact that he was thinking of that, and just that it happened on that day, to me, like, some people, and here's the thing, some people are going to say all those things were a coincidence, or it was just lucky, or it was just, I don't care what
maybe
people
think
it is.
Matter.
Yeah, like all of those things. That doesn't mean that whatever place you're at with how you feel about those things happening, like, it doesn't mean that you can't accept them with like full gratitude in your heart. Gratitude. And, you know, even Derrick and I have like different feelings on how everything played out, but like, either, you know, call it a miracle, call it luck, call it a coincidence, whatever you feel that it was, they were all things that we are forever thankful for. And we feel like each one of those little things that happened that day really allowed us to have our baby boy here. Like, I mean, he is a gift to us. And even though he's such a little stinker, and it just took him 2 hours to get him to go to sleep.
Bed. I text Jordan, help us get this baby to sleep.
Because he's so naughty. Well, he's actually not naughty. He's hilarious. But he's like, you know, with our other kids, we would have been flustered by that. We would have just been like...
With him?
Like, I'm so thankful for every moment that we have with him. And, you know, like a year later, I can't believe that we're here. But at the same time, like, being able to look back now, it doesn't, if anything, like, time hasn't erased the gratitude of those moments, or the magnitude of what happened that day is still very real. We're thankful for him. We're thankful for all of the support that we've received.
Jeez.
You know, life is a gift. Don't take things so seriously. Nothing is more important than the people you love.
Are you waiting for my quote? I feel like you're waiting for my quote that of all time. Don't take life too seriously. You'll never get out alive.
No, I was not waiting for that.
I think you were. No, I agree. The miracles really, like, it's funny. I just posted tonight about the anniversary, if you will, and how thankful we are just for the miracles happen through the people in your life. And whether it's people you've never met or people you see every single day. And you can't take any of them for granted, especially the people that are under your roof, or the ones that you just don't ever take a loved one for granted, or time for granted, because it's short. We're so very thankful for all of you. There are so many people involved that came to our rescue, so to speak. And it's not about us, it's about Jensen, but we couldn't have done it without those people. We had so many friends, not just reach out and say, hey, how can we help, but insisting on being a miracle in our lives.
We can be the miracle. We are the miracle.
We are the
miracle.
It's the smallest things that you can do for other people that make the biggest differences. I don't know, just be aware, see those people around you, and do everything you can to help.
And I think even sometimes you might not. Here's the thing, like my friends, when they were like, hey, we're going to Chick-fil-A, they didn't necessarily in that moment know, like, it wasn't like they had this prompting, like, we should invite Bree to come to lunch with us because something bad is about to happen. Do you know what I'm saying? But they just had this little thought, like, oh, I wonder if Bree wants to come to lunch.
Act on your thoughts.
Yes, like, because you don't, and even like with the people that did CPR, and with Nicole, the nurse that did the CPR, it was a really, like, she was in the same situation, like, oh, I don't really want to go to eat. Oh, I guess I'll hurry and go. Like, you know, when you get those little pushes or urges, like, you don't know how this, like, domino effect. You could be this one little pivot in this incident that changes everything for people. Like, we can attest to that, because people's little changes to be in certain situations completely affected our life and we're so thankful
his
for
life,
that.
and how many other countless people that are yet to still be affected because he is still here. And
totally.
They're, like you said, it's just a domino effect. So much good to still come from it.
Definitely. So anyway, that's kind of the point of today, was just really sharing with you guys how thankful we are for him and for all the blessings that we were able to, receive that day, and all the wonderful people that have been in our lives, including you guys.
Yeah.
Like, the support that we've got from viewers has been just
so
overwhelming.
Thankful.
It's
and we can't there's no way to repay or show our gratitude for everything that you guys have said, your prayers, your thoughts, your comments, your gifts, that we're astounded and so very thankful.
Yeah, and it seems like silly to be like, oh, thank you for the nice things or whatever, but because I don't know, it's hard for us to explain how literally your words of being we're here for you guys, we love you guys, how that really does give you the strength to continue when you're in a hard time.
Will you stop crying?
I'm not crying, you're crying.
I'm not crying, you're crying. You're such a baby.
Anyway, like I said, this video is going entirely too long, but we're so thankful. Is there anything else you want to say? I feel like we've been repeating ourselves.
What did I post today? There was an adage about gratitude and thankful. The more thankful you are for the things that you have, the more things you'll have to be thankful for.
Oh yeah.
Kind of a thing, and it's really helped me live a life of gratitude. And it doesn't mean life isn't hard. It doesn't mean it isn't stressful every single day. But it just means, like we've already said, not to take a day for granted and just be so very thankful for what you have. And it's out there. It might not look like ours. It might not look like anybody else's, but whatever you do have, just be so very thankful for it. And it'll just bring more into your life to be thankful for.
Yeah, it's an exponential thing.
Ooh, good. I like that.
It is.
It's deep.
All right. Thanks for hanging out with us today, guys. Sorry for the
It's midnight.
long video. If you're still watching,
it's not midnight for them.
You're a true friend.
How long was that?
Because I would not be still listening to us.
You talk so much.
I know.
You just don't stop.
I know. Oh. But in a way, isn't it just really, as much as it's hard to talk about, it's also it feels good to sometimes just say the things that it's just you carry around. That day for me is just a weight that we just kind of carry around. And not that I feel I want to talk about it all the time, but because it is in a way a sacred thing, but every once in a while it is good to talk about, because that was real, that happened, those moments, it's therapeutic. So thanks for being our listening ear when we need it. Anyway, we're really gonna end now. Bye guys.
Thanks guys. Good night.